This podcast is for you. Your co-hosts, Ben Dodge and Eric Huso at Effect Epic Consulting, believe that your potential is limitless. Tapping into this potential is how you can affect epic results in your life, relationships, and business. Welcome to the Principles of Epic Growth.
Hello, Eric.
Ben, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good.
Great to be with you again here.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite days of the week when we get to record podcasts.
Yeah, love being with you. Love talking about these powerful principles of epic growth.
Especially today. Today we get to talk about alignment.
Yeah, it's one of our favorites. This is one of those things, it's a small thing, but has huge results in the end.
Yeah, so, in fact, I don't know how small it really is because I would say, and you're right, I mean, it's a simple principle, and yet every single person that I've ever come in contact with, including myself, is somewhere in some way out of alignment. Identifying that, fixing that, and becoming in alignment is really just it's powerful. It's the way to roll. So let's talk about that. What?
Yeah, it really is. So before we jump in, just like to make an invitation to all of you out there as you're listening. Look for the small things that you can actually do as a result of our experience here together. Look for some personal applications. We're not talking about wholesale changes here. We're talking about small changes that will help you have a greater result in your performance and your relationships and whatever it is that you're doing. So
yeah, like the reason we do this podcast, I mean, we don't make any money doing this. Like this podcast is.
I thought you were paying me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I pay in hugs, and that goes for anybody out there. I pay in hugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so you know, they're one-armed hugs.
Yeah, I have a broken wing right now. But listen, yeah, we definitely don't do this, for any other reason really other than we love what we do. We love this work. We're committed to it. We're committed to helping people feel like they're finally just in control of their life. They're not feeling overwhelmed as much. They're not in this, tailspin of life anymore. These principles help us live what I describe as a limitless life. And I love looking at life that way. Like there are no boundaries. There are no limits. There are no barriers or obstacles that are too big. Like everything can be accomplished under the sun if that's what you want to do, and it's just a matter of applying these principles and figuring it out. And so today is huge because alignment is one of the principles that every single one of us will struggle with.
Yeah, so the application of today's principle will really help to eliminate any artificial barriers that you might have on your performance and in the depth of your relationships.
Exactly.
So yeah, one of the things that I hate the most is buying new tires for my car, and it seems like whenever I need to buy new tires, I've got two cars at the same time that need new tires, and dropping down $800 for new rubber. It's like, you've called me a tightwad before. So, but what causes tires to wear out prematurely is your car being out of alignment. And so because they don't ride in alignment, you get uneven wear, sometimes on the inside or the outside of the tire.
Yeah, we've all seen it. It looks like a wobble, right?
Yeah.
You've seen somebody's car go down the highway and their wheel is just wobbling. In fact, you don't even want to get anywhere near that car, huh?
Yeah.
It looks like a radioactive, toxic something's going to blow up in your face just because of the wobble.
And so this analogy of a car's alignment to our own lives really is useful. So the consequences of being out of alignment is we just wear out prematurely. We can't go as fast as we would normally want to go. There's some caution then that results in the way that we drive or the way that we perform in our lives. And so being in alignment allows you to get the maximum potential out of yourself, out of your vehicle, without wearing out.
Yeah, and look, I really think that when you see a car going down the highway with that wheel or that trailer that has a wheel wobbling, don't we naturally want to stay clear of that scenario?
Yeah.
Like when we're out of alignment as people, it's no different.
Yeah.
I mean, those are sometimes those are individuals that are really just totally self-destructive, at least on whatever topic or issue they're out of alignment on. And you can see just the wake of destruction behind them, like it's crazy. So saying, let's get in alignment. Let's help each other get in alignment. Let's help everyone.
Perfect. So as we think about getting into alignment, the first question we have to ask ourselves is alignment to what? And the answer to that is, what are you committed to in your life? So this is one of the most important topics that we have talked about and will continue to talk about, and that is what are you committed to? If you're not clear on what you're committed to, then it's impossible for you to get into alignment. So the first thing that has to happen for a person to be in alignment is to be really clear on what they're committed to. Otherwise, you don't know what you're aligning to. So when we're out of alignment, we end up trading what we're committed to for looking good. And this is something that we all have experience with. It looks like trying to please other people, seeking popularity, and saying yes to everything and everyone.
Yeah, it could be fear-based. It could be a fear of failure. So you're going to say you're going to do something that you can't do, or that you don't want to do, or you're going to participate in some activity or belong to some group, or even take some job. Just you work for some employer you can't stand. Whatever it is, all just for whatever the reason. But often it can be just fear-based. You're afraid you're not going to be able to make enough money unless you take this job. You're afraid you're not going to be able to, fill in the blank, right? So, yeah, like alignment, being out of alignment can control so many of our decisions. It's better to be in alignment and make decisions that way.
Yeah. Now, you bring up a great topic of fear, too. Fear is the cause of being out of alignment, and being out of alignment creates more fear. It creates this never-ending cycle of not being able to get out of that fear-based living. And so, we don't want to live a life that is limited by fear. So the problem with this, though, Ben, is most every human being on the planet, myself included, has lived out of alignment in some degree or another for most of our lives, that we don't really even know what true alignment feels like because we haven't really experienced it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a scary thought. It almost, I think it merits just a little recap definition of what alignment is and maybe what it's not, before we start jumping into a little bit of some examples. But yeah, like being in alignment is essentially living a life like in line with what you're committed to.
It's beautiful.
It's kind of like the simplest way to say that. It's every decision, every action, every behavior, every activity, every group, everything that you're a part of should align with something that you're committed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it becomes enjoyable. It becomes empowering. It becomes liberating. And that it is whatever it is that we're talking about that you're in alignment with. Whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship with a person, maybe for example, let's start doing some examples. Like maybe I just had a fight with my wife. Like, well, I'm committed to my marriage and I'm committed to being a good husband, and so that dissonance, that struggle, or that, and by the way, I did not just have a fight with my wife, but
I'm texting her right now, find out who won.
Recap, I'm married to his sister, right? So I always have to be careful what I say. Yeah, so but all of a sudden an argument like that in an important relationship based on what my commitments are will create some like out of alignment feelings, right? It'll create some frustration, some contention, some a whole bunch of things. And now all of a sudden I'm operating at less than full capacity. A lot of my energy and resources are going to be diverted to that fight and to that weird just feeling between the two of us. In other words, the out of alignment feeling.
Yeah.
And so that can I mean, there's no question that can inhibit or manipulate my performance at work, or my attentiveness at work, or whatever, right? Just fill in the blank. But I mean, it can really wreak havoc. Now, the more of those issues in my life that I have, Like, let's say that I'm really, really, really committed to working on a beach in flip-flops.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that'd be rad. But I know it's a silly example, but let's just say that's what I'm really committed to. I want to be on a beach in flip-flops. Every day I show up to an office, I'm going to feel like I'm stepping into prison.
Yeah. A total internal struggle and battle.
It is nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
So out of alignment is, in a lot of ways, kind of like a nails on a chalkboard feeling. Like, this does not work for me. Like, I'm going to start resenting this every day.
Yeah.
I'm going to start being frustrated every day. And I can find things to like about it, and I can struggle through it. Like, I'm all about pushing through hard things. Don't get me wrong. But alignment isn't that. The hard thing that you're pushing through when it comes to alignment is the courage to make the right choice to change your circumstances.
Yeah. That's the hardest. That's the hardest thing you'll ever do is to say no to all the good things or all the things that people expect of you or want of you to get into alignment.
Sticking something out and just putting up with the sheer difficulty of it to stay out of alignment, that's
insanity.
That's stupidity. Yeah, that's insanity.
But let's talk about, why would that guy stay in that job where he's going into a cubicle every day when he's committed to working on the beach in flip-flops? Why would he stay in that job? Why would he show up to the office and go into a cubicle? What's motivating that? And it goes back to what you said earlier about fear. He has this fear of not looking good, or of this fear of not being good enough, or this fear of fitting in. And that then drives the out of alignment behavior. And now, what good is that employee? How effective is he going to be at work? How powerful is he going to be? How influential is he going to be? How committed is he going to be? What level of work is he going to accomplish when he's in this out of alignment situation? And we all know the answer to that. We all know it probably from personal experience, where we've participated in things that didn't align for us. We didn't give it our all, and the result was less than powerful. So we've got to really look at, number one, what are we committed to? And then look at our choices that we're making. And are our choices consistent with what we've declared we're committed to? Are they in line? Or are they out of line? So I like to think of it similarly to, flight travel. So if we're taking off from Los Angeles and we're going to fly to the East Coast, let's see, where do you want to go?
East Coast?
East Coast, yeah. We're taking off from LAX.
There's not very many places I'd want to go over there. Nah, just kidding. Let's hit the Big Apple.
Let's hit the Big Apple, okay?
Love the Big Apple.
Never been. Hope to go there one day.
What?
But let's just say that on our flight pattern, that we type in our coordinates 1 degree off. We're heading to New York, or so we think, and instead we end up in West Virginia. Sounds like a great vacation.
Yeah, out of alignment.
And it's just a small little degree, right? But over time, as we are out of alignment in these small little areas, we end up in places that we don't necessarily want to be in. And for some, West Virginia might be okay. I mean, there's a lot of people that live there. But if you're trying to go to New York, if that's the result that you want, if that's the experience that you want, being out of alignment won't get you there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the small subtlety of it that's the dangerous part, right? So most of us will live our whole lives, and again, it might be fear-based or whatever the reason, but we'll decide to do things that are slightly different than what we'd really rather do, or we behave slightly differently than what really truly works for us on the inside, or what we're authentic to. And so what happens is over a long course, like in this example, a flight from the West Coast to the East Coast, but in real life, it could just be a matter of weeks, months, years, whatever. They pile up on you, and now you look backwards and go, how did I get to where I'm at? I know I need to work. I got to provide for my family. I know I love my kids. I love my spouse, this and this and that. But why do things just feel off all the time? And so this is why being in alignment is huge. Start looking at those inner commitments. What am I really clearly committed to? And for a refresher, you could always listen to our podcast on commitment. There'll be others too. There's commitment's one of those topics, but just be really clear. What am I committed to in life? And then you can start making and generating decisions out of those commitments that are in alignment with them. And now all of a sudden, when you go somewhere, like a vacation with your family to New York, you end up in New York. You know, and by the way, what's the difference that person feels if it were a real example who stepped off the plane in West Virginia versus had he stepped off the plane in New York? Like dream vacation. He's got all of his money saved. His bags are packed. You know, my bags are packed already. You know, he gets on the plane, he gets off, and he's in West Virginia. That guy is frustrated.
Yeah.
You know, and he's probably a little resentful. He might even be trying to blame the airlines. Like, these stupid pilots don't know where they're going. You know, whatever it is, like blaming, frustration, anger.
He'll feel this sense of being overwhelmed. Okay, now how am I going to get to New York? And so all of his energies are focused on, okay, now I'm here in West Virginia. How do I get to New York? How am I going to get the rental car? How am I going to get everything packed in there? Are we going to lose days? Are we going to be able to do all the things that we planned to? Are we going to lose reservations? And so now all of your energy is focused on this distance between where you want to be and where you are, instead of creating powerful experiences of where you are and where you're aligned to be.
So in this example, and this is what I meant earlier, the toughest thing about alignment is not enduring the difficult situation that you're in, but it's having the courage to make the changes and go in the direction that you know you ought to go in. Because most people, in my experience, don't do that. They get off the plane in West Virginia intending on going to New York, and they just endure Virginia, right? They basically just endure that scenario. They make the best out of it, and they're frustrated and they're resentful. They have like a very less than memorable vacation in this scenario, other than they'll remember how frustrating it was. But they'll just kind of deal with it, and they'll just kind of roll with it, and they'll just be like, well, this is just life, you know, like I'm just, you know, I'm not lucky like that other guy, you know, the other guy got to go to New York. I'm not somebody that deserves that. I'm not lucky enough to do that. I just, you know, woe is me kind of thing. When in reality, like that's where this principle can help somebody, is when you land somewhere like West Virginia and you realize that that's not what you wanted. You really want to be in New York in this particular example. And so ask yourself, what am I going to do to make that happen? Like, how committed am I to this, you know, New York thing? And then out of those thoughts and this principle, you can be in alignment. I mean, you know, the solutions are endless to this question here, this hypothetical, right? You could rent a car, you could take a bus, you could walk, you could ride a bike, you could hitchhike, you could book another flight. Yeah. I mean, so there's just a bunch of things, right? And and so but what are you committed to? Are you in alignment, and what are you willing to do to become in alignment?
Yeah. So going back to that first thing that we said, to really truly apply this principle of alignment, if you're not clear on what you're committed to, then you're going to be spinning your wheels. Because there's a lot of people that wind up in Virginia that are like, wow, this place is beautiful. It's green, rolling hills. Like, this is a great place to be. And they just end up staying in Virginia thinking that that's the way it's supposed to be. They'll even pat themselves on the back for working so hard to get there and wear a badge of honor of how hard I worked to mask that fear of changing to being in alignment with what you've declared that you're committed to. So once again, you've got to get clear on what you're committed to. Once you're clear on what you're committed to, then you can make the changes, these difficult changes, challenging changes, small changes, but challenging changes of being in alignment with what you've declared that you're committed to.
A recap so far. What is alignment? Alignment is living your life in a way where you feel that you are in alignment with your commitments. Like, that's a simple way to do it. Why is it important? Alignment's important because it's one of the single greatest principles to feeling liberated, to feeling less overwhelmed, to feeling in control, to feeling authentic about who you are. It is freedom at its core.
Love that. Freedom from fear, freedom from frustration, freedom from peer pressure.
Yeah, and it's also being proactive instead of reactive. That's one of the big whys. So I love to look at things as what, why, and how, right? Like, what is this? Why do I need it? And then, okay, how do I do it? How do I get it right? So I love the what, why, how approach on this principle, because why is this important? Why is alignment important? I mean, it is literally the way to be free from everyone, including yourself. Because so often, we are reactionary to the world. The world throws something at us, and we just try and react.
Yeah.
Instead of proactively going out there, making decisions based on our clear commitments, and being in alignment with what we want to create in this world.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you could be created by the world, or you can go create the world around you. I'd much rather prefer to create the world around me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And we've been programmed from the time we were babies, right? We've been programmed with rewards and punishments for pleasing other people. And, it's, in most cases, it's good. We want to please our parents. We want to please universal truths and principles that are good for society as a whole. But the downside of from a child being punished and rewarded for pleasing other people is you lose your voice. You lose this consciousness of your individuality and what you're committed to, and you often live this misaligned life. And anytime then a teenager starts to break out of that misaligned life, they're labeled as rebellious and put back into line with what they may not be committed to and be in alignment with. And, we've all gone through something similar to that, or experienced that with our own children or with other teenagers that we've worked with.
Yeah, and the topics are somewhat limitless. So this is a great time to ask you, while you're listening to this, to look inside your, kind of your own life, and or take the time later, today or tomorrow, whatever, sit down and just reflect a little bit. Maybe type yourself a little email, or take a little voice memo, or write a little something on a notepad. What are those things in my life that are out of alignment? And there will be some, I promise. I mean, this is a lifelong endeavor to try and become, in alignment with everything. And so what are those things that are in your life that are out of alignment, that feel a little bit like nails on a chalkboard to some degree? There are lots of examples. It can be the relationships that you have with your spouse and kids. It could be the kind of job that you have. I mean, I can't tell you, we're not going to spend time now, but I can't tell you how many clients we have, that we coach or consult with, who end up switching jobs just because, after uncovering and applying these principles in their life, they realize they're not even really doing what they want to do, or they're not where they want to be, or they're not doing it the way they want to do it because their boss is making them do it a different way. And so, there's a billion different examples there. It could be something simple too, like you're working too hard and you're not taking enough time with your family, or you're not taking enough you time, and you're not doing some of those things that really just make you tick. Like, I know someone who's very musical and played instruments, basically all of this person's life. And for the last few years, there hasn't been much of that, right? And so, something's missing for them, and they feel like something's missing, or something's just not quite all the way in alignment with that person. And it's, that's probably minor, but in the big picture, the more of those little things that we tweak and fine tune and become in alignment, the better. I also know, even though this might be a sensitive topic for some, but people who, struggle, for example, this is a real struggle. It could be homosexuality or something like that. And they feel horribly out of alignment, and they struggle with what to do and who should they be. And, so again, no matter how big or small some of these issues are in your life, like, getting in alignment is literally going to be the solution.
Yeah.
And that's going to be based on what your commitments are.
Yeah. For a lot of us, I personally have a deep faith in God, and whatever God is for you, whatever that looks like for you. Stephen R. Covey wrote a book called The Divine Center, and that each one of us as human beings has a divine center within us, and he talks about this topic of being aligned with that divine center that's within each one of us, and that will look different for each one of us. Our relationship with deity is very personal, and so that alignment is going to look different for each one of us. But for me personally, about 6 years ago, I had an event where I had a stroke, and found a hole in my heart and had a subsequent heart surgery to close that up. But in that time, I had the opportunity to sit and think that, what am I committed to? Is this life that I've created, is this the life that I really want? And this is the life that I really have, does this align for me? And so my wife and I had some powerful conversations. I remember, Ben, you came and visited me in the hospital several times in that period, and we had some really powerful conversations that opened my eyes to some possibilities that, I didn't at the time have the courage to stand up and get my life back in alignment. So those conversations ended up ultimately into a job transfer out of state, a career change that brought me back to Arizona, and then another career change that happened just shortly thereafter, because the first career change that I chose was out of alignment with what I was really committed to. And it was not easy. I mean, those are some of the hardest months and years of my life. But, man, I'm so grateful for those experiences that I had that really enabled me to become clear on what I was committed to and to make those difficult changes to get into alignment.
So I love that. Let's transition now as we wrap this up into how do we help people understand some of the basic steps along the path of becoming in alignment, right? So, like, we know what it is to be in alignment. We know why it's so awesome and why we need to all try and do this. So how does one become more in alignment with, their lives?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I would say first and foremost, we've said it 3 or 4 times already, and it bears repeating again. What are you committed to? Get really clear. Write it down. Don't just think about it, but write it down. What are you committed to? And then.
And by committed, we mean just short, brief background on that, and we will keep this short. What are you so willing to do that nothing will stop you from it? By committed, are you, what are you willing to move a mountain for? And let's say your only tool is a spoon. So we're not just talking about some bucket list of things you want to try and accomplish in your life, which bucket lists are awesome. I've personally got one.
Yeah.
But still,
you got a lot of buckets.
I've got a long list too. Yeah. We're talking about a commitment list is short and it's brief, and it is the handful of things or so that are the most important, parts of something that like literally you're going to have to move a mountain, and I'm only going to give you a spoon. So how many things in your life are you willing to do that for?
Should not be more than 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
After you've really declared what you're committed to, you have to be open to the possibility that there are areas in your life where you're out of alignment. Because most of us have been raised in a society where we have to, please people. And this idea of rewards and punishments that we've talked about, a lot of us are out of alignment in some things that we're just asleep to. And so you've got to be open to the possibility that you are out of alignment. And so once you're open and authentic about those areas, you can see some weaknesses. You can see some areas where you ended up in West Virginia instead of New York. And you can then make some action plans. Do I want to stay in West Virginia, or do I want to get to New York? And how am I going to get to New York? Then I would say after that, you have to be really clear once you're starting to get yourself into alignment. Be really awake to some potential distractions that can come, because part of being in alignment is saying no to all the good things that will distract you from the great things that you're committed to.
That's right.
Steve Jobs is a perfect example of this at Apple. Apple produced 4 or 5 products, and obviously we don't need to go into the best in the world, right? But one of the things that made Apple so successful is that Steve Jobs said no to hundreds and thousands of really good ideas, because he was really clear on what he was committed to, and he was committed to just a handful of things and being the very best. And that required him to say no, 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 no. Extreme courage to say no to all those good things that people want you to do, that people want you to say yes to, that take you away from those things that you're truly committed to.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so how do you become more committed? Or excuse me, how do you get more in alignment? It's simple. You start with your commitments. You stay open to the fact that you're probably out of alignment. And then you be super hyper aware that there's going to be distractions.
Yep.
And so along those lines, I would suggest slow down. Slow down, take a breath. When you're about to make a decision, especially a big one, slow down, take a breath, and ask yourself some very specific questions with those kinds of words and labels, alignment, commitments, those kinds of things. And then just check yourself. Does this activity, does this thing, does this job, does this group, does this whatever, serve my commitments or does it not? Because if it doesn't serve my commitments, then, that would not be even remotely good.
Yeah.
Right. Then all of a sudden you're out of alignment. So
this is one of the benefits of having a coach. And if you don't have a coach, hopefully you have a trusted mentor, a spouse, somebody that you can go to and you can ask some questions like, where do you see that I am out of alignment? Where do you see? Because we're often blind to the areas where we're out of alignment in the moment that we're out of it. And so that's what we do as coaches, is we just help people prioritize what they're committed to, what their intentions are, what their values are, what that divine center is, and help them through a self-discovery of where there's misalignment. And it's amazing. That's one of the most rewarding things of mentoring someone or coaching someone, is when they experience that self-discovery of, I had no idea. I had no idea that I was out of alignment in this area. And it's like ultimate freedom when they finally experience that, being in alignment with what they're committed to.
Yeah. Life's just not easy. And I personally don't believe it's really meant to be, but whatever. It's just a challenging thing to be a human being on this planet. And to live in alignment is one solid, 100% true way to make it a lot more better. In other words, it's not like living life on vacation all of a sudden, because life is hard. But living in alignment absolutely makes some of the most difficult things you can ever deal with less difficult. That's for sure. Just because you're living a liberated life, yeah. You're feeling free. You're feeling like the world might be falling down around you, but not your world. You've got things under control. And
you're committed to a cause greater than yourself.
And you're working towards it. Yeah. And so it doesn't really matter what's happening around you. It doesn't matter that other people are not in alignment, right? You're the person walking down the sidewalk on a sunny afternoon whistling, checking out the flowers because you can. And somebody else is looking at that person just going, wow, I wish I could be that happy. I wish I could do that. And fact of the matter is just being in alignment. That's the secret sauce there. And the difficult part is not enduring the out of alignment decisions. That's easy. It's easy to just stay doing the same thing. It's a lot more difficult to actually make changes in your life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're asking you to do.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and the result of this is, oh, that was really good, and there's no work being done, then this was useless. The great value of this is that you actually do the work of what we're inviting you to do.
And the invitation today is pretty clear. Take a few moments to see what your commitments are. And then take a few more moments, spend the majority of your time reviewing your own out of alignment life. What areas in life am I out of alignment in?
Yeah.
And then once you identify those, the next question you would ask would be, what can I do to fix that? And then just be creative and be open-minded to what those solutions could be. Some things you might just completely cut out of your life. Other things you might just tweak or modify. If it's a relationship with somebody, it might be just having a conversation with them and kind of fixing it, right?
Yeah.
If it's a job, it might be sitting down with your employer and redefining your scope of employment, or quitting or asking for that raise. or who knows what. Like there's just a billion things, but whatever it is in your life, it might be picking up that musical instrument again. It might be putting down all the donuts and the beer because you rather be an athlete now. Not that athletes don't enjoy the occasional donut. I know I do. But still, you know what I'm saying? Like the changes can be minor or they can be huge, but I promise you one thing, it'll be harder to make those changes than it would be to not. Yeah. And so just prepare yourself. But life is so much better being in alignment. So everything is worth it.
The potential for epic results, powerful relationships, powerful performance just opens up all new possibilities when you start to apply this principle.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing in this world that is super easy has ever been, that worth getting. So get out there, make it happen.
All right, let's get to work.
I love it. Enjoy. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Principles of Epic Growth podcast, your path to epic performance and life with incredible growth.